And Shaykh al-Uthaymeen went out into the sun for dhuhr time. A lot of people go in the shade. He went in the sun, Allahu Akbar, started praying. It's time for dhuhr. Shaykh al-Uthaymeen had like a shawl that he put down on the ground, and he stood on top with his bare feet. So he grabbed Shaykh Walid to pull him so that he could stand on the shawl with him. And Shaykh Walid said, I'm shy. How am I going to step on the Shaykh's shawl? So Shaykh Walid put his feet underneath the shawl. But as Shaykh Walid, young boy, right? Nice soft feet and stuff. Feet start burning. So Shaykh Walid starting to hop left and right, trying to cool off his feet for about 2.5 seconds so that he can put his foot down. And the Shaykh doesn't know why that, Shaykh Walid is shaking around like this. And then when they went into ruku', Shaykh al-Uthaymeen saw that Shaykh Walid had put his feet underneath the shawl and not on top. So Shaykh al-Uthaymeen in ruku' grabbed his leg, pulled it out from underneath the shawl and put it on the shawl so that he wouldn't burn his feet and he wouldn't feel shy to do that. And subhanAllah, it's just a simple story. But you may hear very big stories and so on, but it's things like that that a young student doesn't forget. And then when they're taking care of their students, they become older, they're teaching you in this masjid and that masjid, you will see, I'm sure, Shaykh Walid doing similar things to some of his students. And that's the importance of actually living and growing and getting that tarbiyah from the ulama. And something that we also benefit from there is that indeed there is enormous knowledge that is passed through by just living with Muslims. And a lot of times when someone becomes a new Muslim, they don't have that kind of community upbringing that others may have had. And so the solution to that also is to welcome those new Muslims into our homes, into our cultures, into our communities, so they can grow in Islam and not just have to get their Islam from books and from lectures. Because Islam is taught outside, in the hallways, by the cars, at the restaurants. Islam is taught in those places also. And from my experience going in different places of the world, I saw places where new Muslims had cultures that were Muslim and they were able to enter quickly and learn very swiftly. For example, someone in Malaysia, maybe they were Christian, maybe they were Buddhist, they became Muslim immediately. All the Malaysian community could accept someone like that. And the culture is the same, it's just now that the person has become Muslim. Find another culture where the person doesn't have Muslim family, doesn't have a community to embrace them and take them in. You might find that their growth in Islam takes a much longer process. Not with everybody, of course, but it's a longer process, and that needs to change, bi'idhnillah, and we have to become more welcoming. Imam Ash-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, and this is one of the complaints that the brothers here in Houston have, is that all the parents want their son-in-laws to be doctors. And not everybody wants to be a doctor, right? Some people want to go into IT, other people want to do some other things, like study Islam, for example. But you'll see Imam Ash-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, he actually did have a fondness for medicine and for the sciences. So you'll see that Imam Ash-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, in many cases would go into things like that, like in tib, in medicine, firasa, which is like psychology of people and so on and so forth. And one of the things I noticed with the Al-Maghrib Institute classes is that there's a lot of people who are professionals in different fields. So I might have a hadith or mention a statement, and then I'll see one of the students who is, for example, a PhD in engineering. And they're sitting back and they're thinking, and then they say, you know what, Muhammad, this could apply to this situation. And I would say to myself, I never thought of that. But it's about working together. People have different skills. And everybody needs that light of knowledge of Islam in whatever field they are in. And so instead of me, for example, I know a lot of people when they're young and they're studying of Islam, they'll say, I'm going to get a bachelor's degree in Sharia and then I'm going to study law school in Chicago or Houston or something like that. So they're going to learn the law of Allah and then the law of shaitan, and they're going to try and join between the two somehow, somewhere. Right? There's a confusion. In the end, this person is just watered down. They're half scholar and they're a half lawyer and they're a half this and a half that, and it doesn't work. One thing that we're trying to do with the Al-Maghrib Institute classes is that we become professionals in whatever we do. So someone's in medicine, become a professional in it. You're doing law, become a professional in it. You're doing business, become a professional, and then we make a think tank. We work together. So I need help in business. I go to this person who has PhD in business. How do I do this? And they're part of the Muslim community. Here's someone who's in computers. How do we make a network for our Muslim community? They're assisting. They don't all have to be scholars, and we don't all have to be IT professionals. But there's a working together, and you'll see that Imam Ash-Shafi'i Rahimahullah was very keen on joining these types of sciences. So after 9 years, Imam Ash-Shafi'i sought permission from Imam Malik to move on and to go to Iraq and start seeking knowledge from the ulama from there. And subhanAllah, as I read the stories of it, that the caravans were near Baqi', the graveyard of Baqi'. And right now, if you go there, there's probably some shops and so on. But at that time, it was desert. Maybe some huts and so on. And the caravan started going out to Iraq, and Imam Ash-Shafi'i Rahimahullah was on his way. And so you see Imam Ash-Shafi'i, in Medina he learned the fiqh of Imam Malik. And now he's moving on to Iraq, where the fiqh of Imam Abu Hanifa Rahimahullah is predominant over there. Ahl al-Ra'i. And so he's picking up. He's not becoming extremist with one madhab, but he's learning and continuing from where they left off, with an open mind and the truthfulness to the Quran and Sunnah. One of the people that he met there in Iraq was one of the greatest students of Imam Abu Hanifa Rahimahullah, and that was Muhammad ibn al-Hasan. Imam al-Shafi'i and Imam Muhammad, back and forth, they used to debate fiqh issues. And you have many examples of them going back and forth. What's your opinion on this? Then Muhammad ibn al-Hasan would say, my opinion is that. Imam al-Shafi'i, well then you would be incorrect based on this ayah. A reply would come back, and then they would hug each other and they're like, that was a good debate, mashallah. And even though you're coming from like two backgrounds, this is a Maliki background, that's a Hanafi background, they cherished the debate. They cherished the debate. And subhanAllah, sometimes, when I tell people, I don't mind if you disagree with me. Just disagree with knowledge. There's nothing wrong with that, because people grow like that. Either you're right or I'm right, or one of us is wrong, we can learn. One of us has an opportunity to learn there, or things become refined and more precise. But when people argue vainly, and they don't have proofs, and they don't know what they're talking about, that's where the harm comes in. So even though they had these debates, and this is the kind of learning that he went through, rahimahullah, in Iraq, it was still a disagreement of brotherhood. And it wasn't a disagreement of enemies. And this, they'll say munadharat, which are like debates between the scholars. I don't know if you've seen too many of those debates between the scholars. They don't happen too often. Maybe symposiums or things like that, where people put them on stage. But I remember in one conference that someone invited all the speakers from this conference to their house. A lot of like Arab speakers there. Some of the scholars came from overseas. Jamal Badawi was there. Sheikh Salah Hassawi was there. There was some other very high-level scholars. At lunchtime, Jamal Badawi, hafidhahullah, says to Sheikh Salah, what's your opinion on, for example, something like interfaith? And then Sheikh Salah will start speaking. And then you have all these kibar of scholars there listening. And then someone will say, I agree. Someone says, I disagree. Someone says, I agree with you, but not on you, and on this point, on that point. And it starts going back. Imagine me sitting there. I'm like, alhamdulillah, I got into this, lunch. It's pretty tough to get to lunches like that. But subhanAllah, you learn so much. You can say almost like a power session. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you learn so much between their adab, their proofs, who's stronger in proof versus who's using emotions, versus who thought this out, versus who just made up their opinions right there on the spot. You can see it all going together back and forth, back and forth. At the end of the lunch, does someone say, no, you're a Wahhabi, I'm not listening to you. And they'll say, we're never going to have lunch with you again. No. End of the lunch, everybody hugs each other and says, that was awesome. Let's do it again tomorrow, inshallah. And this is the legacy of the ulama that we see with Imam Ash-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, Muhammad ibn al-Hasan. One of the techniques that we also learn from this is a very fundamental technique, that in order for someone to grow, they have to be challenged. So for example, if someone's on a diet plan and they're doing weights, right? If you go and you take 5-pound weights and you say to yourself, today I'm just going to take a light day. If you keep doing those 5-pound weights, you will not maintain your muscle, you will actually lose muscle from there. Because you have to challenge yourself. If you can do 25, then today's workout, you do 30. and you keep trying, the next day you do 35, you get stronger and stronger. If you're good in tennis, if you just play people who've never played tennis in their life, they'll just hit the ball far and your skills will actually get worse. But as you play better people, then you get stronger in your tennis skills. And similarly, in a community, when you have weak members of the community, if you have a community, for example, where the majority, they go home, they're lazy, they watch TV all the time, they don't do any Islamic activities, anybody who does a halaqah on Friday thinks he's Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i. He's the greatest scholar that ever came because he does a Friday half-an-hour halaqah and pizza at the end of the halaqah. Because he's comparing himself or herself to the laziness around them. And you will not get stronger like that. You will not get stronger. You have to challenge yourself with people that are better than you. And if you think there's no one better than you, keep looking, you will find them, inshallah.